for the person you are today. If your past and present circumstances seem unbearable, intolerable, or undesirable in any way, you can change for the better. Decide right now to create a better you for tomorrow. Invest in yourself. Learn as much as you can about the person you want to become. How does he, she speak? What do they do, where, know that you don't? How do they live? What are their dreams, ambitions, plans, goals, values, etc.? Are you working on becoming who you want to become? What qualities and attributes do you need to possess? How will you obtain them? What changes could you make in your life that would be life-changing? Thank you for listening to Music, Motivation, and More, the Positivity Podcast. I am your host, Jerald Simon. I am the founder of Music Motivation and the creator of the Cool Song series. I am also the creator of Essential Piano Lessons. It's part of an essential piano exercise course that I've created as well. Today's podcast is titled Becoming Who You Were Born to Be, Part 2. In last week's podcast episode, I introduced my new book, Becoming Who You Were Born to Be, and it will be coming out in a few months. We've already finished the book. The cover's been designed, and everything is ready to go with the book, but we are setting up podcast interviews. We are setting up a lot of marketing, and then we're coming out with an entire publicity schedule where we will be sending out press releases to various media, and we'll be talking about what we're going to be doing prior to launching my new book, Becoming Who You Were Born to Be. So I'm really excited about that. Today I wanted to talk a little bit more about who you are and who you can become. It's about becoming who you were born to be. I'm going to share just a few excerpts from my new book, and I'd like to talk about who you are, or who you think you are. For the positive perceptions portion of this podcast, I would actually like to read a quote that I included in this book. It's actually a paragraph from my book, Perceptions, Parables, and Pointers, that I published in 2017. This is found on page 27 from the book. This is what it says. Who do you want to become? The person you were yesterday, the person you are today, and the person you can become tomorrow are all very different. You may look at the person you were yesterday and feel guilt, remorse, anger, frustration, and pity. This may even apply to the person you are today. If your past and present circumstances seem unbearable, intolerable, or undesirable in any way, you can change for the better. Decide right now to create a better you for tomorrow. Invest in yourself. Learn as much as you can about the person you want to become. How does he, she speak? What do they do, where, know that you don't? How do they live? What are their dreams, ambitions, plans, goals, values, etc.? Are you working on becoming who you want to become? What qualities and attributes do you need to possess? How will you obtain them? What changes could you make in your life that would be life-changing? Decide to be a better person. Make the decisions you need to make today to become the person you will become tomorrow. Now, after including that paragraph, I then go on within, and this is found within the first chapter of the book, I then say this. If you think about it, we all have this image of ourselves, who we think we are at this moment. And of course, there is the image of who other people think we are based on what they know from their past interactions with us. This includes what they have seen us do or what they have heard us say. We know ourselves better than anyone else. People only know a little about us or believe what they have been led to believe or know about us based on the experiences they have had with us. Again, these can be good experiences and these can be bad experiences. We must think of our true selves, the people we know we are, when no one else is watching, when no one else is listening to us. The individual, that individual is someone we need to get to know better, because we need to be honest with ourselves before we can be honest with others. We cannot be trustworthy with another individual if we are not trustworthy with ourselves. We cannot help others set and achieve goals if we do not set and achieve goals ourselves. We cannot teach someone else if we are unteachable. We cannot help others change if we are unwilling to change. We cannot be a force for good and pursue our own personal improvement if we don't do good things and don't do anything to be better. We cannot speak of honesty when we are living a lie. Now it then goes on, and it begins talking about how we need to work on ourselves and how we need to be the person today that we want to become tomorrow. And we work on that person every single day. Year by year, month by month, week by week, day by day, hour by hour, and minute by minute. We are the collective summation of all of our thoughts, words, and deeds from our past. For the motivation in a minute portion of this podcast, I actually want to read a quote that I've included in this book, and it's from Lao Tzu. This is what it says. If you are depressed, you are living in the past. If you are anxious, you are living in the future. If you are at peace, you are living in the present. And that is the key. We need to be at peace with ourselves. We need to be living in the present. That does not mean worrying about the future or regretting the past. That means being at peace with ourselves. And that is a beautiful experience that we can all have. For the Music Within portion of this podcast, I would like to have you listen to Guiding Star. This is from my album Peace and Serenity. I hope you enjoy this. For the Poetry That Motivates portion of this podcast, I would like to read Courage Called to Me. Now, this is found on page 39 from my book, Poetry That Motivates. Let me read this to you. Courage called to me. Loneliness befriended me, but soon left me all alone. So I wandered for ages and lived life on my own. Emptiness engulfed me, then discarded my disconsolate soul. So now I feast upon my famine, and though deprived, I feel quite whole. Sadness and sorrow summoned me. Bitterness beckoned me home. Anger and hostility harassed me, yet they all soon left me alone. I was abandoned, but I stood on my own, and in standing I gained an inner strength, even though I felt completely alone. Courage soon called out to me, and my newfound strength supported me. Then happiness delightfully held me, and my growing faith set me free. Think of courage calling out to us. Think of us being courageous and being prepared for whatever life has in store for us. We need to be ready. We need to be prepared. Now, there are 5 actionable steps I'd like to have you take from what I've discussed in today's podcast. First of all, the first 3 I'd like to have you think about is, who are you at this moment? I want you to think about that. You can even write down a paragraph. Who are you at this moment? 2, who have you been in the past? 3, who would you like to be and eventually become in the future? Now you can think of those 3 as kind of a to-do list. Your past, present, future. But then in addition to that, I want you to think about these 2 questions. What are you doing to improve yourself? What steps are you taking to improve your life? And then the last thing I'd like to have you think about, and in the book, Becoming Who You Were Born to Be, we go over stepping stones for success, as I call them. And we discuss that in more detail in chapter 6. But I want you to think about, what steps do you need to take today to move towards success? Now, we each define success differently. Yes, those who define monetary success, they have come up with a way to define how successful an individual is based on what they've accomplished. But I want you to think about how you can be successful in whatever you do. However you define success, what are some stepping stones you can take for success? And how can you focus not on who you are right now with all of your mistakes, all of your pains, all of your sorrows, and all of your setbacks, but who you want to become? And then think about the little steps along the way that will help you grow, improve, and be better each day. It's a process. When you look in the mirror, I want you to look at yourself in the eyes and try to see into your soul. Ask yourself if you are content where you are in life and with what you are doing. Are there any areas in life where you could improve or be better? If you are honest with yourself, you will come up with a few areas that need a little work. Maybe we need to demonstrate more kindness. Maybe we need to be more understanding, have more empathy, or have more sympathy. Maybe we need to not be so quick to be angry or upset. Maybe we need to be more forgiving and apologize and ask for forgiveness. Maybe we need to improve scholastically, financially, spiritually, physically, emotionally, or in any number of areas. There are so many ways we can improve in life. It is about being better today than we were yesterday and striving to be a little better tomorrow than we are today. And that is the key. We all have weaknesses, but we all have strengths. It's about focusing on our strengths and helping those strengths to become stronger. And that is what we need to focus on. That is what we need to do. To be better today than we were yesterday. To strive to become the best version of ourselves. It's all about having a positive perspective. It's about being honest with yourself. It's about caring about those around you. And it's also about how you treat others. Especially how you treat yourself. So think about that today. And do your best in everything you do. Thank you so much for listening to this podcast. I hope you guys have an enjoyable day today. I hope you do your best. You can listen to my music if you go to any of the streaming sites out there. You can also watch videos from my YouTube channel, youtube.com/Jerald Simon, JeraldSimon. I'd love to have you check those out. If you are enjoying this podcast, I would love to receive a review from you, and I would love to share that review with others. So what I'm going to start doing, the very first of every episode, in the first few minutes, I'd like to share a review from the podcast that someone has left on our podcast. And again, you can find the podcast is titled Music, Motivation, and More, the Positivity Podcast. And you can look for that. You can search for that on any podcast platform. You can just type in my name, Jerald Simon, and that will come up as well. I've been interviewed on a lot of podcasts as well. But I'd love to have you think about each of the podcasts that I've recorded. Now, I'd like to read a review, and we're reading this at the end of the podcast. Ordinarily, we're going to read this at the start of the podcast. This was a review from a year ago, and it says, "This one gets 5 stars from me. I love the way Jerald articulates his message to the world. It's what we need. If you want some positive motivation in your life, hit that subscribe button." So, thank you so much. The title of that is titled Fantastic Podcast, and thank you for that 5-star review. It says Biggest Fan 208 is what they were put their name down as. So thank you so much for that review. We are grateful for all of the reviews, grateful for all of the 5-star ratings that we've received. We have, I believe this podcast has now been downloaded over 8,000 times. And so we want to thank you so much. That just means the world to me and to my family. That is wonderful that so many people from all over the world are listening to this podcast, and I hope it helps out. I hope that you feel a sense of peace and positivity. That is why I've created this podcast. Every week, we come out with a new podcast, and I want you to feel peace. I want you to feel positivity. I want you to know you can do difficult things, that when you fall down, you can get back up, that you can be better today than you were yesterday. And so that's my goal and my hope, is to help you know that even if the world is dark, there is a bright light of hope, and you can look to that light, and you can find the good in everything you do. So keep up the good work, do your best, and continually do better. Thanks so much. Hope you guys enjoy this. Have a great rest of the day. See you. Bye. Subscribe to Music, Motivation, and More, the Positivity Podcast, to receive updates of each new weekly podcast produced and released by Jerald Simon. A new podcast is recorded and released on Mondays. Listen on any podcast platform of your preference. But I'd love to have you listen to my music as well. You can listen to my music and find my artist name, Jerald Simon, Jerald Simon. You can listen on Spotify, on Pandora, Apple Music, Amazon, all the different streaming platforms. I would love to have you check out my YouTube channel. It is youtube.com/Jerald Simon. JeraldSimon. I have Motivation in a Minute and Poetry That Motivates videos that I have produced, in addition to my own music videos and music educational instructional tutorials that I've created to help teach music the fun way. I'd love to have you check it out. I'd love to connect with you on social media. You can connect with me on any social media platform. You can go to facebook.com/Jerald Simon. I'm also on Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn, all the different social pages at Jerald Simon. JeraldSimon. But I'd love to have you check out my music. Let me know what you think. Thanks for listening. Hope you guys have a great day.